Look at a map of the world and ask yourself, which country produces the best football players on the planet? Instinctively, your mind probably wanders to South America. You picture the massive sun-drenched beaches of Brazil or the crowded, passionate streets of Buenos Aires in Argentina. You might also think of historic European powerhouse nations like Germany, Italy, or Spain. But if you actually analyze the raw data from recent World Cups, the map tells a completely different and deeply fascinating story. If you look at the exact birthplace of every single player stepping onto the pitch at the World Cup, an absolute statistical anomaly appears. One single region, one tiny dot on the global map, absolutely crushes the competition. It isn't Rio de Janeiro, it isn't Buenos Aires, it is Paris, and more specifically, the greater metropolitan area surrounding it, known as the Île-de-France. The dominance of this one region completely defies all geographical logic. During recent tournaments, the Paris region alone has supplied over 50 players to the World Cup rosters. And here is the most shocking fact of all. The vast majority of these world-class athletes do not even play for the French national team. If you look at the official squads for nations like Senegal, Morocco, Tunisia, Cameroon, or even Portugal, you will find player after player who was born, raised, and trained within a 20-mile radius of the Eiffel Tower. How did a zone of just 4,600 square miles become the most powerful, dense, and productive talent factory in the history of global sports? It isn't a matter of luck, and it isn't about genetics. It is the direct result of brutal urban geography, complex geopolitical history, and a highly organized government machine designed to ensure that no talent ever escapes its grasp. To understand this anomaly, you first have to understand the highly unique geography of Paris. Unlike most American cities, where the suburbs are typically wealthy, sprawling residential zones, the structure of Paris is the exact opposite. At the very center, you have the historic city. This is the Paris of postcards, the museums, the monuments, the extreme wealth, and the political power. But this pristine center is physically locked inside a massive barrier of concrete, the Boulevard Périphérique. This is a heavy, multi-lane ring road that completely encircles the city proper. On the other side of this ring road lie the Banlieues, the Parisian suburbs. After the Second World War, France was in desperate need of cheap labor to rebuild its shattered economy and infrastructure. The government called upon hundreds of thousands of workers from its former colonial empire, primarily from North and West Africa. To house this massive influx of new populations, the French state constructed the Grands Ensembles. These were gigantic, brutalist concrete housing projects, geographically isolated from the economic heart of the city and largely deprived of commercial infrastructure or upward mobility. Today, these suburbs, such as the department of Seine-Saint-Denis, are the most densely populated and youngest areas in all of France, but they are also the most economically disadvantaged. And it is exactly this combination of isolated geography and explosive demographics that created the engine of French football. In these neighborhoods, physical space is a luxury. Kids don't grow up playing on massive, sprawling grass fields. They play on what are known as city stades, tiny, caged-in concrete or asphalt pitches squeezed between towering 20-story apartment blocks. When you play on a tiny concrete rectangle surrounded by dozens of other hungry players, you don't have time to think. You must develop flawless technical control, lightning-fast reaction times, and a relentless, aggressive physical edge just to survive on the court. This highly specific, cramped urban geography forces the evolution of a very specific type of athlete. Players who are incredibly technical, blisteringly fast, and completely immune to high-pressure situations. By pure accident, the concrete suburbs of Paris became the harshest and most effective athletic laboratory in Europe. But raw talent, even when produced on a massive scale, is not enough to dominate the globe. Brazil has an endless supply of talent in its favelas, yet thousands of brilliant players slip through the cracks every year. What separates France from the rest of the world is the ruthless industrialization of this talent. In the early 1970s and 80s, the French government and football authorities realized they were sitting on a demographic goldmine surrounding their capital. So they created an unforgiving, ultra-organized system designed like a geographic spiderweb. The French Football Federation divided the entire territory into strict, monitored zones. In the Paris region alone, there are thousands of highly organized amateur clubs, and hovering above them is an absolute army of professional scouts. No child can escape the radar. If a 10-year-old kid plays an incredible match in a suburb like Bondy or Trappes, the Federation knows about it by Monday morning. This is where the beating heart of the system comes into play: INF Clairefontaine. This is an ultra-secure, elite training facility hidden deep inside a forest about 30 miles southwest of Paris. It is essentially the Harvard University of world football. Every single year, tens of thousands of young boys from the Paris region are evaluated. After months of grueling physical, psychological, and technical tests, only 23 boys are selected to enter Clairefontaine at the age of 13. This system of pre-formation is entirely unique to France. The state takes these raw, hyper-technical diamonds forged on the concrete of the Banlieues and for 2 years rigorously refines their tactical intelligence and physical conditioning. When these players graduate at age 15, they are absolute tactical machines. Global superstars like Kylian Mbappe, Thierry Henry, and Nicolas Anelka all pass through this exact geographic filtration process. But this is where the story takes a truly fascinating geopolitical turn. This Parisian system has become so incredibly effective that it actually created a massive problem for France. The Ile-de-France factory simply produces way too many elite players. The French national team can only select 23 players to take to a World Cup, but the Paris region routinely produces dozens upon dozens of athletes fully capable of competing at the highest international level. So where do all these surplus world-class players go? They use geopolitics to their advantage. Because of France's colonial history and the immigration waves of the 20th century, the vast majority of these players hold dual citizenship. If they realize they are not going to be called up by the French national team, FIFA regulations allow them to declare loyalty to the country of their parents or grandparents. This is exactly why, during any given World Cup, the geographic influence of Paris stretches across the entire globe. Nations like Algeria, Senegal, Morocco, and the Ivory Coast rely heavily on players who were born, raised, and elite trained within the French system just outside the Parisian ring road. France hasn't just built a national team, it has successfully engineered a global athletic empire. The utter dominance of Paris is not a sports miracle, it is the result of a perfect geographic equation. The history of immigration provided immense human density. The brutal geography of the concrete suburbs provided the raw training ground, and the French state provided the relentless infrastructure to harvest it all. As long as the Parisian banlieue exist in their current form, encircling the capital and overflowing with a youth population desperate to escape through sports, Paris will undeniably remain the undisputed capital of world football.